Book 44, Partnership. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. Allah's Apostle sent an army towards the east coast and appointed Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah as their chief, and the army consisted of 300 men including myself. We marched on till we reached a place where our food was about to finish. Abu Ubaidah ordered us to collect all the journey food, and it was collected. Our journey food was dates. Abu Ubaidah kept on giving us our daily ration in small amounts from it, till it was exhausted. The share of every one of us used to be 1 date only. I said, "How could 1 date benefit you?" Jabir replied, "We came to know its value when even that too finished." Jabir added, "When we reached the seashore, we saw a huge fish which was like a small mountain. The army ate from it for 18 days. Then Abu Ubaidah ordered that 2 of its ribs be fixed, and they were fixed in the ground. Then he ordered that a she-camel be ridden, and it passed under the 2 ribs, forming an arch, without touching them." Narrated Salama. Once the journey food diminished and the people were reduced to poverty, they went to the Prophet and asked his permission to slaughter their camels, and he agreed. Ammar met them and they told him about it, and he said, "How would you survive after slaughtering your camels?" Then he went to the Prophet and said, "O Allah's Apostle, how would they survive after slaughtering their camels?" Allah's Apostle ordered Ammar, "Call upon the people to bring what has remained of their food." A leather sheet was spread and the journey food was collected and heaped over it. Allah's Apostle stood up and invoked Allah to bless it, and then directed all the people to come with their utensils, and they started taking from it till all of them got what was sufficient for them. Allah's Apostle then said, "I testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and I am his apostle." Narrated Rafi bin Khadij. We used to offer the Asr prayer with the Prophet and slaughter a camel, the meat of which would be divided in 10 parts. We would eat the cooked meat before sunset. Narrated Abu Musa. The Prophet said, when the people of Ash'ari tribe ran short of food during the holy battles, or the food of their families in Medina ran short, they would collect all their remaining food in 1 sheet and then distribute it among themselves equally by measuring it with a bowl. So, these people are from me, and I am from them. Narrated Anas, that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq wrote to him the law of zakat which was made obligatory by Allah's Apostle. He wrote, partners possessing joint property, sheep, have to pay its zakat equally. Narrated Abiyah bin Rafa' bin Raft bin Khadij. My grandfather said, we were in the company of the Prophet at Dhul Hulayfa. The people felt hungry and captured some camels and sheep, as booty. The Prophet was behind the people. They hurried and slaughtered the animals and put their meat in pots and started cooking it. When the Prophet came, he ordered the pots to be upset and then he distributed the animals, of the booty, regarding 10 sheep as equal to 1 camel. One of the camels fled and the people ran after it till they were exhausted. At that time there were few horses. A man threw an arrow at the camel, and Allah stopped the camel with it. The Prophet said, some of these animals are like wild animals, so if you lose control over one of these animals, treat it in this way, that is, shoot it with an arrow. Before distributing them among the soldiers, my grandfather said, we may meet the enemies in the future and have no knives, can we slaughter the animals with reeds? The Prophet said, use whatever causes blood to flow, and eat the animals if the name of Allah has been mentioned on slaughtering them. Do not slaughter with teeth or fingernails, and I will tell you why. It is because teeth are bones, that is, cannot cut properly, and fingernails are the tools used by the Ethiopians, whom we should not imitate for they are infidels. Narrated Ibn Ammar, the Prophet decreed that one should not eat 2 dates together at a time unless he gets the permission from his companions, sharing the meal with him. Narrated Jabala, while at Medina we were struck with famine. Ibn Zubayr used to provide us with dates as our food. Ibn Ammar used to pass by us and say, don't eat 2 dates together at a time, as the Prophet has forbidden eating 2 dates together at a time, in a gathering, unless one takes the permission of one's companion brother. Narrated Nafi, Ibn Ammar said, Allah's Apostle said, if one manumits his share of a jointly possessed slave, and can afford the price of the other shares according to the adequate price of the slave, the slave will be completely manumitted, otherwise he will be partially manumitted. Ayub, a sub-narrator, is not sure whether the saying, otherwise he will be partially manumitted, was said by Nafi or the Prophet. Narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, whoever manumits his share of a jointly possessed slave, it is imperative for him to get that slave manumitted completely by paying the remaining price, and if he does not have sufficient money to manumit him, then the price of the slave should be estimated justly, and he is to be allowed to work and earn the amount that will manumit him, without overburdening him. Narrated An-Nu'man bin Bashir, the Prophet said, the example of the person abiding by Allah's order and restrictions in comparison to those who violate them is like the example of those persons who drew lots for their seats in a boat. Some of them got seats in the upper part, and the others in the lower. When the latter needed water, they had to go up to bring water, and that troubled the others, so they said, let us make a hole in our share of the ship, and get water, saving those who are above us from troubling them. So, if the people in the upper part left the others do what they had suggested, all the people of the ship would be destroyed, but if they prevented them, both parties would be safe. Narrated Urwa bin Az-Zubair, that he had asked Aisha about the meaning of the statement of Allah, if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry other women of your choice 2 or 3 or 4. 4.3 She said, O my nephew, this is about the orphan girl who lives with her guardian and shares his property. Her wealth and beauty may tempt him to marry her without giving her an adequate bridal money, which might have been given by another suitor. So, such guardians were forbidden to marry such orphan girls unless they treated them justly and gave them the most suitable otherwise they were ordered to marry any other woman. Aisha further said, after that verse the people again asked the Prophet about the marriage with orphan girls, so Allah revealed the following verses: They ask your instruction concerning the women. Say, Allah instructs you about them and about what is recited unto you in the book, concerning the orphan girls to whom you give not the prescribed portions and yet whom you desire to marry. 4.127 What is meant by Allah's saying and about what is recited unto you is the former verse which goes if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly with the orphan girls, then marry other women of your choice. 4.3 Aisha said, Allah's saying in the other verse yet whom you desire to marry, 4.127, means the desire of the guardian to marry an orphan girl under his supervision when she has not much property or beauty, in which case he should treat her justly. The guardians were forbidden to marry their orphan girls possessing property and beauty without being just to them, as they generally refrain from marrying them when they are neither beautiful nor wealthy. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah, the Prophet established the right of shafa, that is preemption, in joint properties. But when the land is divided and the ways are demarcated, then there is no preemption. Narrated Jabir bin Abdullah, the Prophet said, the right of preemption is valid in every joint property, but when the land is divided and the way is demarcated, then there is no right of preemption. Narrated Sulaiman bin Abu Muslim, I asked Abu about money exchange from hand to hand. He said, I and a partner of mine bought something partly in cash and partly on credit. Al-Bara bin Azib passed by us and we asked about it. He replied, I and my partner Zayd bin Al-Arqam did the same and then went to the Prophet and asked him about it. He said, take what was from hand to hand and leave what was on credit. Narrated Abdullah, Allah's apostle rented the land of Kaaba to the Jews on the condition that they would work on it and cultivate it and take half of its yield. Narrated Uqba bin Amir, that Allah's apostle gave him some sheep to distribute among his companions in order to sacrifice them and a kid was left. He told the Prophet about it and the Prophet said to him, sacrifice it on your behalf. Narrated Abdullah bin Hisham, that his mother Zainab bint Humayd took him to the Prophet and said, O Allah's apostle, take the pledge of allegiance from him. But he said, he is still too young for the pledge, and passed his hand on his, that is Abdullah's, head and invoked for Allah's blessing for him. Zura bin Mabad stated that he used to go with his grandfather, Abdullah bin Hisham, to the market to buy foodstuff. Ibn Umar and Ibn Zubair would meet him and say to him, Be our partner, as the Prophet invoked Allah to bless you. So, he would be their partner, and very often he would win a camel's load and send it home. Narrated Ibn Umar, the Prophet said, whoever manumits his share of a jointly possessed slave, it is imperative on him to manumit the slave completely if he has sufficient money to pay the rest of its price, which is to be estimated justly. He should pay his partners their shares and release him, the freed one. Narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, whoever manumits his share of a jointly possessed slave, it is essential for him to manumit the slave completely if he has sufficient money. Otherwise he should look for some work, for the slave, to earn what would enable him to emancipate himself, without overburdening him with work. Narrated Ibn Abbas, the Prophet, along with his companions, reached Mecca in the morning of the 4th of Dhul-Hijjah assuming ihram for Hajj only. So when we arrived at Mecca, the Prophet ordered us to change our intentions of the ihram for Umrah and that we could finish our ihram after performing the Umrah and could go to our wives, for sexual intercourse. The people began talking about that. Jabir said surprisingly, shall we go to Mina while semen is dribbling from our male organs? Jabir moved his hand while saying so. When this news reached the Prophet he delivered a sermon and said, I have been informed that some peoples were saying so and so, by Allah I fear Allah more than you do, and am more obedient to him than you. If I had known what I know now, I would not have brought the hadi, sacrifice, with me, and had the hadi not been with me, I would have finished the ihram. At that Zuraka bin Malik stood up and asked, O Allah's Apostle, is this permission for us only or is it forever? The Prophet replied, it is forever. In the meantime Ali bin Abu Talib came from Yemen and was saying Labbaik for what the Prophet has intended. According to another man, Ali was saying Labbaik for Hajj similar to Allah's apostles. The Prophet told him to keep on the ihram and let him share the hadi with him. Narrated Abiyah bin Rifa, my grandfather, Rafi bin Khadij said, we were in the valley of Dhul-Hulayfa of Tahama in the company of the Prophet and had some camels and sheep, of the booty. The people hurried, in slaughtering the animals, and put their meat in the pots and started cooking. Allah's apostle came and ordered them to upset the pots, and distributed the booty considering 1 camel is equal to 10 sheep. One of the camels fled and the people had only a few horses, so they got worried. The camel was chased and a man slopped the camel by throwing an arrow at it. Allah's apostle said, some of these animals are untamed like wild animals, so if any one of them went out of your control, then you should treat it as you have done now. My grandfather said, O Allah's apostle, we fear that we may meet our enemy tomorrow and we have no knives, could we slaughter the animals with reeds? The Prophet said, yes, or you can use what would make blood flow, slaughter, and you can eat what is slaughtered and the name of Allah is mentioned at the time of slaughtering. But don't use teeth or fingernails, in slaughtering. I will tell you why. As for teeth, they are bones, and fingernails are used by Ethiopians for slaughtering. See Hadith 668.